Yeah, if you're here for the first time and you want to introduce yourself in the chat, please do.
I see a question, Patrick, from a member of the media here with Fox 5. Am I able to record? Do you want to take that?
So I don't know if you're able to record on your computer. We are recording this this meeting, and it is live streaming on YouTube. So I personally don't have any problem with a journalist recording it, given that it's publicly available. I think it's worth asking everyone else who's here, are there any objections to a journalist recording, in addition to the fact that this is already being recorded and live streamed? Does anyone have an objection they'd like to raise?
I don't object. Nick Gakakis? Nick, are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Nick, your reputation precedes you. I hope you know that one of my very best friends is Donna Kaiser.
Yeah, I see Donna all the time.
And she speaks so highly of you.
All right.
So I'm so happy to see you here today.
I hope I can keep it up.
Okay, so
hey, Patrick, sorry to interrupt. I just noticed that the media guy, I'm just basing on his name because it's already gone up, he basically said you just have to enable the permissions so he can record it.
does he know where I do that?
It may be
Maybe.
in settings. You may have to go out. The reporter should have his own. You should have like, he should have like OBS or something that can automatically record it. He doesn't have anything like that.
It's not letting me, as far as I can see, it's not letting me change the setting since I'm in the meeting.
I think if people keep coming on, Patrick, and they don't know that it's being recorded, maybe we can ask that that they get permission to use any.
They know that it's being recorded because up in the left-hand corner, it says it's being recorded live on YouTube, being recorded other places.
Oh, so that anyone can have that information. We wouldn't know if it was a reporter or not.
Sure.
And Jeff's made a comment in the chat that he's good without it. He's okay. So thanks, Jeff. Appreciate your note. And thanks and welcome everybody. It's incredible to see so many new folks joining our third session community roundtable session. So thank you all for, I can't even call out all the names. There's so many in the chat. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yeah, if you're new and you feel like you'd like to introduce yourself in the chat, please feel free to do so. My name is Patrick Anderson. I'm one of the co-hosts and moderator of the discussion, but this is a meeting hosted by San Diegans for Justice. So Andrea is going to start with her welcome, and then Poppy and I will say a few things. I'll talk about Zoom protocol and how we're going to proceed, and then I'll share the agenda for tonight so you can all see that too. So Andrea, we are live on YouTube and we're here on Zoom. Over to you.
Thank you. The first thing I want to do is really thank everybody for being here. As I hope everybody knows and understands that Measure B, which created the new Commission on Police Practices, was 100% people powered. You know, there was no big billionaire behind us, you know, supporting us. This was 100% people powered, going to continue to be that way. And that's why I'm just so pleased to see everyone here. What we're meeting about today is, now that the Measure B is passed, what does the community want this new commission to look like? What do they want it to be like? And we want and need everybody's input on this. So the next thing I want to do is I want to give credit where credit is due. it is the community outreach committee of the CRB that came up with the idea to have this series of forums. And they reached out to me and asked if San Diegans for Justice would like to join in those. So I want to give a special thanks to Patrick Anderson and Pop Fitch, whose work went into making this possible. So we're going to have a really interactive night tonight. So everybody's going to work together to create what this new commission is going to be tonight. So I'm really excited about it. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Patrick and Poppy.
Thank you so much, Andrea and San Diegans for Justice. We really appreciate you. And I'm looking at the agenda now, Patrick, and I jumped in.
That's okay.
You are first to speak.
That's okay. I forgot to unmute myself, which is the new refrain in this world.
I was just buying you time, that's all.
So welcome, everybody. Andrea, it is such a thrill to be continuing this work with you. My name is Patrick Anderson. I'm a professor at UC San Diego. For those of you who are here for the first time, I have been on the current CRB for 3 years, and I am on the transition committee that is currently planning for the transition to the new commission. And I a couple months ago agreed to be the chair of the Community Engagement and Outreach Committee. And it was then that I started working with Andrea and Poppy to make these events happen. For those of you who are here for the first time, this is the third community roundtable. We've covered a lot of ground already. If you would like to view previous roundtables and all the notes from those, I'm going to put a link in the chat right now. I need to change it to everyone. There we go. This is my own UCSD website where I've been tracking the transition. I'm also posting the videos of these roundtables. And I should say that every item that gets mentioned in the roundtables, the next morning I find that item and post a link to it. So those of you who have attended the previous roundtables, if you go there, you'll see, among other things, the SDPD beat map that was mentioned at our last meeting. You'll see various forms of legislation that have been mentioned, in addition to compilations of all the comments made during the live roundtables. Okay, if you're not muted, I would ask that folks mute themselves unless they're speaking, just so we prevent any background noise or strange other noises. I do want to note that this week that we find ourselves in has made it even more clear that the work we're doing together is absolutely crucial and urgent. Among the many things that became, I shouldn't say became visible, but that renewed the intensity of their visibility last week, was the disparity in police response to different kinds of events happening at the Capitol and elsewhere. There was it was, I won't say shocking, I won't say surprising, but it was remarkable to see how differently the rioters were responded to as compared to events that had been organized as part of the movement for Black Lives across the country in the summer. I also want to draw your attention to an article that was published in the Voice of San Diego recently that explores the most recent SDPD data and that uses that data and clarifies that data to explain it to a broader public. I've put the link in the chat box. And the last thing I want to say briefly before I hand it over to Poppy, my good friend and colleague, Dylan Rodriguez, who teaches at UC Riverside, sent an email today to his communities in which he said, it's as important now as it has ever been that we have each other's back. And so I hope that each of you is surrounded by people who have your back. and I hope that we can all have each other's backs in the days and weeks and months to come. With that, I'll hand it over to Poppy before coming back and explaining what we're going to do tonight. Poppy.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And Andrea, thanks so much for hosting tonight. My name is Poppy Fitch. I am, in my professional life, an administrator in the San Diego Community College District. I oversee district-wide disability support services for students. I am really pleased to be here today in service to CRB. I'm second vice chair of CRB, and I want to acknowledge our executive committee who's on tonight: Charmaine Mosley, Brandon Halpert, and Doug Case. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I want to begin by sharing a land acknowledgement from San Diego County Resource Conservation District. Since time immemorial, the San Diego County region has been the home of the Kumeyaay, Luiseño, Kahua, and Cupeño Native people. We acknowledge that people have come before us and lived with care and respect on these lands. We recognize that we are now on the lands of these Indigenous people who are still here and will always be. We honor the Indigenous people living today as well as their ancestors, and we deeply respect their resilience and connection to the land. And I want to especially honor and acknowledge the presence of Dr. Stan Rodriguez, who I saw in the chat, who is a member of the Kumeyaay band and is the director of the Kumeyaay Community College. And I just want to tell you, I'm so happy that you're here with us today. And I'm happy that all of you are here, and want to just remind all of us that these roundtables are listening sessions. They are by the community, for the community, and they offer us an opportunity to hear input about how we might envision the future independent commission on police practices. And with that, I will hand over to my colleague and friend, Patrick.
Thank you, Poppy. So as we've mentioned, this is the third roundtable. Again, all of those previous roundtables are visible at the website that I put in the chat a few minutes ago. For the benefit of the people who've just arrived, I'll put it there again. We've had an incredible time over the last couple of roundtables. When Andrea and Poppy and I talked about what we had learned, we just couldn't stop talking. And we thought that our next step would maybe be best used if we could start to turn the energy of those first two roundtables into some next steps, sort of action planning for channeling the energy that we've nurtured with all of you over the last two roundtables. So I'm going to put yet another link into the box, which is to tonight's agenda, which we're going to talk through right now. Are you all able to see that? I can see that people are logging on, so what a world we live in. I can see you all as anonymous animals in the little Google box.
It's not up, Patrick, just for you to know, it's not rendering, so you've got to share your screen again.
It's not, people aren't able to see it?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were sharing. You put the link in the, forgive me. I
put the link in the box, but I'll also share it. That might be helpful. In terms of, let me figure out which window it is. That's the one. Are you able to see this? Okay, so in terms of protocol tonight, we ask that people use the raise hand function. If you're on a phone, I believe you hit *9. I think Luana taught us that in our first roundtable. I think you hit *9 to raise your hand. And then I'll be calling on people in order. Poppy will also be monitoring the chat box. And then the three of us together are going to be monitoring or moderating the larger conversation. So what we've done from the first two roundtables is to develop a list of 9 questions that we would like to ask people across groups to start brainstorming some actual proposals as parts of these questions. Between, well, at this roundtable and then at the 4th roundtable, which will be held on January 30th, which is a Saturday from 2 to 4 p.m. So we'd like to talk about these 9 questions now to see how the community feels about them and if they'd like to make any changes to them. And then I've set up 9 breakout rooms, and we will then spend some time. People can join whichever group they, feel is closest to what they'd like to be working on. And then within that group, people will have conversations about how the community feels about, for example, the advisory committee for the nomination and selection of commissioners. And then we'll come back together as a large group, and we'll ask each of the breakout rooms to nominate a volunteer to tell the larger group how that conversation went in a brief sort of description of what went on. So I'm going to scroll down with the screen that I'm sharing to show you these 9 questions. Do I need to enlarge this? And because I'm sharing screen, I can't see everybody's faces. So if someone could tell me how the room feels.
It looks good to me, Patrick. This is Poppy. It's a good size.
Okay, and I'm seeing in the chat, others are saying it looks okay. Okay, so the first group, sorry about that, would be focused on this idea that came out of the community. It started developing in the first roundtable and got even more steam in the second roundtable. But the first topic would be for the community to really build out this proposal that we set up for the benefit of folks who are here for the first time, that the community set up a committee made up first and foremost of a representative from each of the groups who've been centrally involved in Measure B. So a rep from Sandy Agans for Justice, a rep from Earl B. Gillum, and a rep from Mid-City Can. And then made up with representatives from other groups as well to vet the applications of commissioners and make recommendations to the City Council. So that's one of our sort of breakout room questions. The next one is oh, I'm sorry about that. The next one is another topic of hot conversation over the last couple roundtables: commission size and term length. There have been a number of suggestions and recommendations on this question in the last 2 roundtables. And again, we'd really like to develop across different community groups some ideas of proposals we can actually make to the folks who are drafting the implementation measure. The third question is about one part of Measure B. So Measure B requires that the new commission conduct independent investigations of officer-involved shootings and of in-custody deaths. For all other complaints, which include false arrest, discrimination, use of force, courtesy, and others, the new commission would have the option of doing an independent investigation, but would be mandated only to do a review of internal affairs investigation. And just to bring everyone up to speed on this, the current model of CRB is that review model. we review internal affairs investigations rather than conducting our own. So that's a third question. How should this commission make decisions about which of those complaints should be fully and independently investigated? The fourth question, I'm just admitting a couple people more. The fourth question is about transparency and accountability. This is crucial to these community roundtables. It has been an overarching theme. The community wants to build into the new commission very specific practices for keeping the commission accountable to the community and of ensuring that the commission's work be transparent to the degree California state law permits, that it be transparent to the community. So the fourth sort of overarching question is about that. The fifth is about the complaint process. What should the complaint process look like? In the current system, people can file a complaint with IA or directly to CRB. There's a website where you can do it. You can do it vocally, speaking to someone. You can do it over the phone. You can do it with a written complaint. But with the new commission, the community has the opportunity to have a say in what that process looks like. So that's another of the breakout rooms. Meeting accessibility. So another really interesting idea that's come out of these roundtables is that the commission should build in accessibility to everything it does, which means that when meetings are scheduled, where they're scheduled, how they're scheduled, should take account of people's working schedules. Should stagger the times in which they occur, so that everybody has an opportunity to attend at some point. There have also been suggestions that open meetings might be best held on Zoom in the future, since we've sort of gotten used to this, and that makes it possible for more people to attend, and so on. The seventh is about supporting commissioners. We've had representatives of the unhoused community who've sent messages to us saying that they are unable to attend open meetings because of transportation issues. People have suggested that if meals could be offered, childcare, elder care, and so on. In addition to that, if commissioners themselves could have access to mental health resources and other kinds of resources, so that a wider diversity of San Diegans could actually have the opportunity to serve as a commissioner. Other suggestions include being able to do remote case review, so you don't have to travel to a central location during working hours to spend hours reviewing these cases. And then two other issues that have been of great importance to people. First is the training for commissioners. What should that training look like? Of course, it will include training in the sort of best practices of oversight. A lot of the development of those best practices has come from NACOL, which stands for the National Association for the Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. It's an incredible organization that brings together different kinds of oversight boards and commissions across the country. But in addition to that, what San Diego's specific training should commissioners have? And how can we ensure that the community is involved in that training? That the community is brought in to help with the training? And then finally, data and reporting. In addition to its case findings, what other kinds of data does the community, would the community like to see this commission collect? And what other kind of reports about that data would the community like to see the commission produce? So for those who arrived a little late, I realize I'm seeing a couple comments, people asking if the questions can be sent around. So I'll put a link in the chat again that gives you direct access to the document we're looking at together, and that way you can download it. All right, so we have about 15 minutes now for us to talk with you about these questions before we ask folks to break up into groups and begin talking about them in smaller collectives. So I'm going to keep an eye on the raise hand function and on the list. So I'll call on people in order. But how does the community feel about focusing on these 9 areas in this way? I see a hand raised from Lori. Hi.
Oh, just a minute. Hi there. So I'm curious, this is my first meeting, and I just want to acknowledge everyone's work to achieve this, to get this passed. My question is, what is the goal of this commission? Are we trying to change policies so when people file complaints over whatever the basis of the complaint, is ultimately the goal to change the system of policing that led to that inequity in certain communities, to reduce violence committed against people and shootings? I'm used to working on policies where we work through this process with an outcome, a policy outcome. And I don't see that being addressed unless it's in another document that I haven't had a chance to see yet. So that's my question.
Yeah, Lori, I think I can address that if you don't mind. So of course it starts with Measure B, in the language of Measure B. What the new commission has several duties. One of them is to investigate and evaluate complaints that are made against police officers. After making such an investigation or an evaluation, they then can give recommendations on discipline. But that's just one part of what the commission does. The other parts include auditing and monitoring the police department to look at what their practices and procedures are, and then based on that, make recommendations for best practices. Additionally, the new commission has the duty of reviewing and understanding the extent to which the police department is complying with the new reporting laws, or actually all reporting laws. The ultimate goal is to make sure that the community knows and understands exactly what is going on in terms of any alleged wrongdoing by the police department, and also that the opportunity through this, this commission, the community through this commission has the opportunity to recommend what best practices are, and also that the commission has the true ability to do that, because it will have experts at their disposal to help them formulate what best practices are and what to recommend to the police department. The ultimate goal is, yes, to keep everyone safe, to keep the community safe, to keep police officers safe, and to build the relationship between the community and the police department. Does that answer your question, Lori?
Yes, thank you. That's a good start. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll just add to that extremely helpful explanation that Measure B really lays out the specifics of the policy of the commission. I think what this community, the people who've been showing up to these roundtables, are invested in is building a community-based public safety that is accountable, that is transparent, and that comes from the community. And so these roundtables have really been about bringing people together to talk about what that might look like within the structure of the commission that Measure B mandates. Okay, so I see Darwin. I thought I saw Kylie, but no longer. Darwin and then Dahlia. Darwin, you're up.
Thank you. Hi, Darwin Fishman with the Racial Justice Coalition. And I'm curious, I know we've talked about this before, but the thing I'm getting most with folks in talking about these town halls is what the final process is going to be, in the sense that if we come up with these documents, is it then voted on by the city council and the mayor? And then what happens, for example, if we have these documents and then it's rejected and city council votes for something else, or the mayor vetoes it? I'm just curious if you could talk a little about, because the concerns I'm getting is about the process and whether or not basically what we come up with, and if we have some kind of like a group agreement about it, will that hold through? Will that be the final product?
Thank you for that. Andrea.
Sure. As Darwin, you have identified the issues there very well. What we're trying to do is, again, get input from the community as to what this new commission should really look like. And just to remind people, the Measure B was a charter amendment, and a charter amendment is really the skeleton of what the new commission is. That skeleton now needs flesh, and that flesh is created through an ordinance, okay? The ordinance is going to be enacted by the city council. And, you know, unless you get 6 votes, the mayor can veto it. What we need to do is we need to know what exactly we want in that ordinance. And then we have to make sure that the city council knows and understands exactly what in that ordinance. And then we need to advocate for it in the same way that we advocated for Measure B to be placed on the ballot, right? So there's still work ahead of us. But the first thing is to be really clear on exactly what we want. And that is what these forums are for.
And I'll just add to that. Thank you, Andrea. I'll just add to that it's my hope that the city council and the mayor take notice of the community interest in this, the passion that's come into these roundtables, and the incredible amount of work that people are doing to think in concrete ways about how the commission can live up to the promise of Measure B. And I will say that we have council members here. We've had council members at other roundtables. We've had, I believe we had folks from the mayor's office in the room at the last one, in the Zoom room at the last one. So my sense is that they are paying attention, and that if we can help them by giving them a community-based set of proposals, that they will take those seriously. That's the goal that I know I'm working towards. Dahlia, Andrea, go ahead. Sorry.
Can I just echo what Patrick said? Yes, I have met with city council members. They are very receptive to what we have to say. So I want everyone to believe that, yes, and to know that the city council members are going to take our suggestions very, very seriously. So your input is really important, right? Because most of this input, I fully believe, is going to go directly into the ordinance. So, we got to get to do some good work tonight.
Yeah. I'll also say that Measure B passed with 75% of the vote, as you all know, which is a higher margin than any single elected official. I think that's a pretty clear message from the city of San Diego, and a testament to the work of Andrea and so many other people over the decades. Dahlia, sorry we kept going with that, but you're up.
Actually, both of you answered my question, so thank you. My hope is that the only thing I was thinking is that we be sure to track the response time as well, in how the police is responding to when the commission reports various complaints or claims against the police department. I think that's really important to make sure that we're on top of that.
Great. I think that's absolutely right, especially given California state law that limits the amount of time an investigation of an officer can be conducted. It's crucial. I'm not seeing any raised hands, so if folks feel okay with this, we can go ahead and open the breakout rooms, and then Poppy and Andrea and I are going to stay here and then jump between rooms some. But we really want this to be a grassroots thing where community members talk to each other on these topics. I'll also say we're asking for one volunteer in each room, whoever wants to step forward to take notes on the discussion. And then it can be the same person or a different person, but one volunteer to say a few words when we all come back together about how that discussion went. You're welcome to keep notes on that shared document. If you want to, you can create a comment and type in there what the group discussion is. That's perfectly okay too. But I'm going to stop the share now so we can all see each other, and then open the breakout rooms. If you click the breakout room button, you may need to sort of widen the screen to choose which breakout room you want to go to see the full title, but those titles are exactly the same as the bolded and underlined titles on the shared Google document.
Patrick, while folks are navigating there, I do want to note that in the chat there's some conversation about where which group would be the group to talk about issues related to relationship violence or domestic violence cases related to police officers, and I just want to make a note, since a couple of people asked that question.
I think that would go in determining what to investigate.
Yes.
Because the other thing that Measure B does is it empowers the commission to investigate internal complaints and other wrongdoing by SDPD. So that's where I would send those folks.
And could I say, just in case people don't realize, you need to scroll all the way to the bottom of the pop-up that says breakout rooms. You need to scroll all the way to the bottom to choose which one you want to go into.
Doug, did you have a comment?
I was going to agree that it should be a breakout 3.
Okay. There's a question about how many of these forums are planned. So there's the fourth one is happening on January 30th, 2 to 4. I have committed to hosting as many as we need to host going into the future. So I don't think there's a limit on that. Are people able to join?
What I'm saying, Patrick, in the chat is that some folks are struggling, if they're on iPhone or iPad, they're struggling to see the breakout room option, which is fine. You can just put in the chat what group you want to join, and I'm happy to assign you manually.
Where do we find the list?
So if you click the breakout room button on Zoom and then
I don't have a breakout room button.
Neither do I.
I don't either.
I don't have it either. I don't have it either.
I don't either.
Yeah, let's do.
Okay. So.
Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to go through each name and assign people. You can tell me which one you want to be in, and we'll just.
You call folks and.
Can you put the list of the rooms? I joined late.
I think it would be good, Patrick, to put your list up again.
I need the list also.
Mm-hmm. And I see you, Larry. Some of you are already putting in there. So we've described determining what to investigate as room 3. So a few of you have already mentioned it, and I might be able to just start assigning you. If you want to just note that in the chat.
The whole list is not on there. Only 6, 7, and 8 are on.
Well, this is going well. I'm so sorry. I thought this would work.
It is going well, Patrick.
We'll troubleshoot it. So here are the first 6.
Maybe people could pull up the Google document as you had suggested, and that would make it easier.
I couldn't copy the link from the chat, so I put it in. And I had the number right, but it didn't work.
Just click on it?
In the chat?
Yes.
I'll try that.
Okay, I'm also starting to move people over. And now I'll scroll down to show the last 3 rooms. Samantha. I'm going to say your name as I see your chat, and I'll so that everyone will know I'm moving you. There you are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wadad said 3.
For folks who know how to retitle themselves, no stress if you don't know how to, but for those of you who do know how to retitle yourself, if you could just put the room number to start of your name, and then that'll help us more quickly move you over.
Anne Elliott, room 2.
Katrine.
Stephanie Jennings, room 5 or 6. Stephanie, do you have a preference?
Susan, I'm
sorry. 6 if there's room for me.
Done. Greg Denaris, room 7.
Mona, I'm going to assign you to room 8.
Callie Boston, room 3. Oh, now I'm seeing some names. Okay. Thank you for making these changes. Christina, I've got you. Nick, I've got you.
Hi, this is Dahlia. I'm pretty open to any one of those breakout rooms. So I guess where you need me.
Okay, I'm going to put you, Dahlia, in 2.
Okay.
And I don't think I have the number, but transparency and accountability.
Who's that? Who's speaking?
Oh, Pat Brew.
And you wanted to be in which one?
Transparency and accountability.
Okay, I'm still trying to find your
name.
Oh,
here it is. It says join.
Okay. I'm going to start calling people's names while others are going through the chat. Chelsea, do you have a preference? I'm not hearing a response. Alexis, do you have a preference?
No, I am choosing not to participate, just as an
okay.
Thank you.
Robert, do you have a preference? Robert Bettinger?
No.
Okay. Aaron, do you have a preference? Genevieve, do you have a preference?
I can do transparency and accountability. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's a big group. Let's see here. Darwin, would you like to, do you have a preference?
Group 1.
Got it.
Thanks.
Yep. Evie, do you have a preference?
I'd like to somehow talk about timing, and I don't know where that'll fit in. Maybe with you 3.
Okay. Alex Curtis, do you have a preference? Stephen Heron, do you have a preference? Wonder if people are. Sandy, do you have a preference?
Number 3.
All right. Done. Malcolm, do you have a preference?
If they don't have a preference, then can we just maybe assign them to a room?
Well, it might be that people want to stay in the main room.
Okay.
I think we've gotten through most people. Kat, were you here for the first part of the discussion, or did you just get here?
I just hopped on. My apologies.
That's okay. That's okay.
No worries. No worries.
We're breaking people into small groups to talk about different topics. Can you see the screen? These are the 9 different topics. I'm thinking about your contributions over the last 2 roundtables. Transparency and accountability of the commission, or determining what to investigate, where it's optional for commissioners.
Sure. Because I cop watch, where would I go to present that data, and how to nurture a better relationship between cop watchers and people that are on the commission?
Maybe complaint process, actually. I'm sorry, not complaint process, determining what to investigate.
I wonder if it might be data and reporting.
Oh, data and reporting.
I think
That's
it
the
would
right
be.
place. Yeah.
I just put her there.
Okay.
Aaron, did you want to go into a room? Aaron Wilson, you want to go into a room?
Lori, I see you want to go to 9. Oh, somebody already made that move.
Yeah. Marisa, do you want to go into a room?
Not really, but I can.
No, if you don't want to go, no, you don't have to go.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
you don't have to go.
I'm always just on here, listening, of course, because.
So, I'm sorry, Marisa. Evie, where did Evie want to go? Because she's still not assigned to a room.
Well, Evie had said she wanted to talk about timing. There's not really a room where we're talking about that. Evie, is there another issue that that you think you could talk about right now, or would you like to stay here in this room and talk with us?
Well, I think commission size and terms might be good. Evie, how does that sound? Evie? Okay. John, you don't want to go into a room?
I can go wherever you like, but I think that we have not discussed any kind of timing that we can try to work out with even the city council, or come up with something, because when the other measure passed, it took them 2 years before they paid any attention to any of it. And I think that can happen because there's a lot that's going to have to go on to get any of this to happen. So when are we going to have the opportunity to get into that kind of thing with some kind of group that takes some responsibility for some of this moves ahead?
Okay.
Evie, I do want to let you know that there is on Patrick's website that he posted in the chat, Tracking Measure B. There, and Patrick, tell me if I've misspoken. There is the transition team's kind of sample timeline.
Yeah, but I don't think that we should transition that way. Okay, that's what I partly would like to talk about.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It restricts the thinking of the group. I mean, that's some of the issues around that.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry, I was trying to be a problem solver.
Yeah. No, thanks though.
Is there anyone else? Yeah, John, did you say is there a room you want to go to, John?
Oh, John Hartley here. How do you join a group? Do you
We
click
don't-
on that red?
We don't actually
Which one do you
know.
want to
We
go
have to
to?
figure out. We're moving people manually.
Yeah, which
okay.
group do you think you'd like to go into, John?
Well, I'm brand new, so I'll just take any group. I don't have a preference right now.
Okay, I'm gonna.
If you have one that needs people, I would go into that group.
Okay, that's the one I put you in. Henri, there's no place you want to go to? Henri?
Four.
There's, which one do you?
Room
is it
4.
Number 4? There you go. Let's see. So, Malcolm, there's no room you want to go into?
Yep. Hold on.
Which room you want to go into? So are you saying yes, that there is no room you want to go into, or is there a room you want to go into?
Sorry about that. I'm having a few little technical problems right now.
Okay.
I do want to go into one of the rooms though.
Okay. You know which one, or you want me to assign you to one?
You can assign me to one.
Okay, let's do the complaint process. There you go. And let's see. Don, did you want to go into a room or you wanted to stay out?
I requested room 2.
Let me get you to room 2, commission size. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ernestine, is there a room you want to go into? And Henri, you didn't get into 4? I didn't get you into 4? Something should pop up as soon as it should pop up and ask you to click on there to go to room 4.
Can you do that again?
I will try to do that again. Let's see.
Hi, Andrea. You called me Ernestine?
Yes.
I'm a present member of CRB and I'd like to observe.
Oh, excellent. That's fine. That's fine. I'm still trying to find where I have Henri though.
I think I did it and he was able to join. I resent it. So this was a little bit messy, obviously. We have we're giving them until about 6:20. So they still have about 25 minutes.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Okay.
And Alex and Alexis, did we ask both of you if you wanted to join a room?
Yes, you did. This is Alexis. I'd just like to. Thank you.
Yes, you did. What about Alex? Alex Curtis, do you want to join a room? And yeah, I think we got everybody. Great. Is Stephen on the CRB? Stephen Heron on the CRB?
No.
Stephen, do you want to join a room? Stephen Heron, do you want to join a room? Stephen, you just want to, okay, that's fine. Just checking. Just checking. Stephanie, you didn't get into a room?
I'm in 6, but I don't know how to, oh, there's the join the breakout. Okay.
Ready? Okay, there you go.
Let me offer a welcome to Leticia. This is Poppy. Hi, how are you?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much.
So good to see you.
Good to see you.
Listen, so what we're doing right now is we are breakout rooms in progress.
Okay.
And there are 9 topics that the breakout groups are discussing, and they've only just gotten going. So you're not even late.
Okay.
And so, oh, I'm sorry, Poppy, please.
No, go ahead, Leticia.
Oh no, I'm okay. I was just gonna ask if I needed to be put into another room.
Well, Patrick is showing on his screen the 9 areas of focus, and they're a little bit small, but since I know what they are, I can kind of read them. Data and reporting, training, supporting new commissioners, meeting accessibility, complaint process. Maybe I'll scroll for me. Transparency and accountability, determining what to investigate, commission size and term length, and this idea of an advisory committee for the selection of commissioners. And that's a small group that might benefit from your presence.
Okay.
Is it okay?
Join. Yep.
Absolutely. If you have a different area of passion, you tell me and go there, but that would be probably the group that might benefit from your.
Happy to help.
Thank you. Okay. So
Great.
See you soon.
Yeah, I think we're good.
I have to admit, I thought that would, we are still being live streamed, by the way, just so everyone knows. I thought that would go more smoothly.
It's still pretty good.
I thought I had set it so that people could join whatever room they wanted to join. I don't know why that didn't work.
No worries. No worries. We have Pauline with us now. Did you just come in or have you been here?
Just came in.
Great. Let us explain what we're doing. We're separating into different breakout rooms, and people are discussing specified topics to come up with some thoughts and ideas about how they would like the commission to work. And we have a number of rooms, and we'd like to know if you'd like to be assigned to a room and which room you'd like to be assigned to. Patrick, do you want to describe the rooms, because I don't have the full description here?
Sure. So Pauline, there's a room that's focused on the Community Advisory Committee for vetting applications for potential commissioners. There's a room that's about the commission size, how many commissioners, and term limits. There's a room that is focused on determining what to investigate. So the parts of the Measure B that apply to Category 1 complaints, not officer-involved shootings or in-custody deaths, it has the freedom to decide to investigate those or not. So this would be about how the commission makes those decisions. There's a room that's focused on transparency and accountability for the commission. There's a room that's focused on the complaint process. Any of these so far?
Patrick, let me interrupt you. I'll go with your number 3, where the how many commissioners are going to.
Okay, I'll put you there. You should get an invite on your computer, click accept or go or whatever.
Okay. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay.
And Andrea Dauber, how are you doing?
Hi, good evening. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. And let's see, I don't know if you heard our discussion that we were just having, but we'd like to know which breakout room you'd like to be assigned to. Did you hear any of those, and did any of those sound fun?
Thank you very much for asking. If it's okay, I would rather just not be assigned and just kind of hang out and listen in. I was only just now able to join. I'm still kind of handling some work items on the side, so if it's okay.
No worries, it's absolutely okay.
Thank you.
It's more than okay, it's just fine. I just wanted to ask if there was something you wanted us to do, so. And yes, Charmaine is observing.
I just sent a broadcast message to everybody thanking them for their patience and saying we'll bring them back in about 15 minutes to the main room.
Okay.
Patrick, nothing beautiful is accomplished if we don't make a mess.
No, I know. I'm frustrated with myself because I read everything I needed to read. I thought I had set it up correctly, and here we are. Tama, I see that you had room 4. Do you want to be moved to room 4?
I had to leave altogether and it just defaulted me back here, but I was just typing a thank you quickly to all of you. I have another meeting, but really appreciate, this opportunity. And I have one of my co-members taking notes, so at least she'll keep me informed of what's happening in that breakout room. So thank you all.
What group are you with?
I was in the transparency and accountability, and I know we were kind of meshing data reporting in with that too. It was really hard to choose all of those items. We've been meeting with the district attorney's office and going over criminal justice reform on some of these topics. So I know Justin's in there, and like I said, Patrine, one of my committee members. So I look forward to your notes and whatever you share coming out of this.
That's great.
And Tama, I spoke to your group a couple of weeks ago, and
yes, thank you.
I don't think you were there. You were not there.
I was in a cooking class. I missed it altogether.
Let me tell you, I had such a wonderful time. Sorry I missed you. You have
aren't they amazing?
Oh, you have a great group.
Yeah. Yeah, so I know that we'll be in touch with all of that stuff. So thank you all. Good to see you, Poppy. Take care.
Nice to see you, Tama. Thanks for being here.
Okay, of course. And you always do a wonderful job, Patrick. I want you to know that you're really
Thank you so much. Thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, Patrick is Evie. The whole thing, including Zoom and all the stuff with it, is such a learning curve.
It is.
We're all going through that. I set up some meetings as well, and there's always something else I need to know. There are some good tutorials, but I can't remember a lot of stuff when I read them. So I come back with one or two little things that I have learned.
And then you learn the 15 things you don't know, and you have to,
right, you go back and try to
it's like life itself.
Yeah,
exactly.
So you took on a big job to separate everybody out like that. Anyway,
I'm glad Poppy and Andrea were here to help. Sorry, go ahead, Evie.
I just wanted to express what I'm concerned about with the timing. I mean, like you said, we'll take as long as it takes. Like, there's got to be some feeling about how long these kinds of sessions would go on to then start doing something, and how you prioritize what it is that needs to be done. So my vision, if that's what it is, my seeing this as being a separate thing from a transition, is to really think about getting the people who will be on this new commission, and then let them decide a lot of things once they're there, get the training. That's going to take quite a bit of time. You can't just get a bunch of new people, and there'll be from hopefully a bunch of different backgrounds, different skills, different experiences with this kind of stuff. It's going to be probably a fairly, if you want a really good group, take a while for them to get accustomed, to get trained, to get to know each other and be able to work well. So if we're going to even think about that idea of not having them get transitioned, but be their own group that can decide and look into what are the best practices, how would they like to work, really start from scratch so that they can be imaginative and get something new instead of having to follow what they've learned in this transition. That's one of the reasons why I think they should not go through transition. It gets you stuck.
And I did want to tell you, when you asked this earlier, I wanted to make sure you know, or you knew, that I did add you to add your comments to those notes, so they are there prominently now.
Thanks.
Francine, I see you've just joined. So we've divided people up into some small groups to talk about particular issues, and then we're going to bring everyone back in about 10 minutes now. So Francine, would you like to be added to a group, or do you want to hang out here with us while we're just talking more generally?
I would, Francine, I didn't hear her respond, but if I want to know if Francine heard anything I said, because I'd be interested in what her response to that idea is.
I think Francine came in after you were talking, so if you want to explain it again.
Yeah, and Francine, you're on mute. You're on mute, so you might want to take yourself off mute. And also, Ernestine has her hand raised.
Ernestine has what?
Her hand raised, I believe. Is her hand raised? Yeah. Oops, no, that was me. Sorry, she does not. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. It was my cursor. Ah, Dr. Collins, it's nice to see you.
To see you. How have you been?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. We are in breakout groups right now, discussing different aspects of the commission and what people would like to see. Would you like to be put into a breakout?
I just came from one from group 7 with.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, great. So you all are wrapping. No, go ahead.
I said just came from group 7 with Greg and Samantha.
Okay.
Hey, Andrea. I was in group 7.
Hey there. So you all are wrapping up, huh?
That's right. We worked well together.
Consensus.
Very nice. Very nice. Hi, Greg. How are you doing?
Thank you. Good.
Andrea, Caroline is the postdoctoral fellow I hired to work with me on the larger project at UCSD. So the Youth Ambassador Program and a larger study of police safety.
That is great.
And I think the others, they're in rooms probably, but the other people we've been able to hire are also here somewhere.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Patrick. You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Thank you, Greg. I'm actually going to step away for about 5 minutes so that I can just get a bite of food in my body.
Please.
Andrea and Poppy, are you okay to take the wheel for a few minutes? Yeah. Okay, I'll be back as quickly as I can.
Okay.
Sure.
Andrea, can you share what council people you have spoken with?
Let's see. I'm trying to think which ones we haven't spoken to. But I will say that the council members we have spoken to are appear all very supportive of Measure B and supportive of taking these suggestions of the community and putting them in the ordinance.
Do we have any idea how that is going to work? Like who is going to work on the ordinance?
Well, of course, the city council is going to enact the ordinance. So that means that the city attorney is going to prepare the ordinance.
Really?
Yeah. That's what the city attorney does.
Well, we were looking for an ordinance for our cabins for amicus, and it was not city attorney. She might have to approve it, but there were assigned people who were writing the ordinance.
And who were those assigned people?
I don't know who they are at this point.
Okay.
We were trying to find that out, and I think we finally did.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. When you say assigned people, what do you mean?
They're staff people in one of the departments. It's not. Not the attorney, city attorney. So.
Oh, okay. So there are attorneys in one of the departments.
Maybe they're attorneys. I'm not sure. Would you think they have to be? I mean, attorneys would have to approve it, I'm sure, but yeah, I'm not sure of that at all.
Okay.
When they came up with, deciding they could put tiny homes on wheels and put it in driveways and backyards and all that stuff, that was an ordinance written for that, and that's what they came out with, not what we wanted. But anyway, that's what we were exploring at the time, and it needed an ordinance written. Have you talked with Mara?
No, not yet. Yeah, I've sent in a request for a meeting with Mara, and hopefully she will get back to me soon. People are getting done fast.
My sense is that smaller groups maybe are able to kind of tackle the topic, and wonder how that transparency, the accountability group is going.
Yeah, group 1 is already done, and they're going to come back soon. So we'll have them. And
so for those groups that are returning, just making sure that you know who your speaker is going to be and who your scribe is, and feel free to jump onto that document to drop your synthesis into a comment on the shared doc.
Oh yeah, that's good.
I'm gonna find the link and post it again so it's closer to bottom. Maybe I am.
So we're going to bring everybody back in about how many minutes, Poppy?
I think as soon as Patrick gets back, we can do so. I think I'll broadcast a message really quickly and just ask folks to start closing up.
Okay.
Andrea, another question for you, Evie, here.
Please, Evie.
Is it in the ordinance, and I should know this, I mean, not in the ordinance, is it in, what would we call it, the proposal itself that got approved?
Measure, yeah, the measure.
Yeah, the commissioners will hire their own staff?
Technically, the city council has to appoint the executive director, because the city has to do that appointment. Now, that does not mean that the executive director is nominated by the city council. The process we foresee is that the commission, the commissioners will nominate who they would like as the executive director, and then the city council will officially hire that person. Once the executive director is hired, then they have the authority to actually hire the rest of the staff. But again, that is the staff, the commissioners choose who they would like hired. But in a technical sense, the executive director is the person who has to hire them.
Okay, so that's sort of the number one person before they can get anything done.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
True.
So, yeah.
Everyone, if I could jump in, I think we should start to bring people back, if that's okay.
Great.
Does everyone feel okay with that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt the discussion.
Patrick, I just sent a broadcast message letting folks know that they should be concluding their conversations and selecting their spokesperson. So let's give them maybe 1 more minute to do that. And then I don't know what your settings are, either 60-second or 30-second once we close the rooms.
Okay, and I'm getting a message from someone in meeting accessibility asking for help. So I'm going to go join that to see if they're okay, and I'll be back, and then we can bring them back.
Okay.
I wonder if some discussion of the kind of person that ought to be the executive director maybe can be open to consideration, for some input rather than leaving it to when the commissioners themselves have to get together and make that decision. Maybe they would be open to having some suggestions from community.
Yeah, that's an idea. In the charter amendment itself, in Measure B, it is really clear that the executive director serves at the pleasure of the commissioners. So it's really up to the commissioners themselves to decide who they want as their executive director.
Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, that isn't clear as to how they would get that. It could be put out as a countrywide search.
And that is my understanding from the transition committee, that is what they are going to do, is that right now Charmaine is will be the transitional executive director. And once new commissioners come on, then a nationwide search will take place and they can choose whoever they would like, including Charmaine, if they would like to choose Charmaine. But that's my understanding of what the process that is contemplated right now.
Yeah, but that's contemplated by the current CRB.
Well, the current CRB is going to transition.
No, let me, Andrea, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can I answer that question?
Please, Patrick, please answer.
Okay, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I don't like to do that. Evie, if you look at the tracking Measure B site, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a spreadsheet where I'm tracking little things going on. One of the things that we took back from the roundtables to the transition committee, and the transition committee fully embraced, was that everything that the CRB did for the commission would be by definition interim. And so everything they're starting to draft requires the new commission, however it gets set up, to make their own permanent standing operating procedures, bylaws, and so on. So everything from hiring the executive director down to where the meetings are held and what the complaint form looks like. Because of the community input, the transition committee has agreed to make everything they do interim. So I took back to the committee the concern from the community that the current CRB would define the new commission. And they fully embraced that concern and said, okay, everything we do it'll say in the documents, this is interim, and the permanent commission will be required to enact their own procedures and so on.
Yeah, and what it'll get down to, if they work with you on a transition, is whether they will accept what you're doing or decide to do something else rather than starting from scratch.
Exactly.
That is my objection, because that limits their thinking. They need time to explore what other possibilities are, what best practices perhaps are doing in other places, maybe just some ideas of their own being batted around, just open thinking. I mean, that's what my main objection is, to have everything laid out by the current CRB.
I understand, and I'll take that concern back. Yeah.
Well, and I was going to suggest too that I think it's important that the implementation ordinance not spell out in great detail all those things. So there's the flexibility you're talking about, so the new commission will have the ability to make some decisions on their own. So I think the city council ought to set the parameters, but give the new commission the ability to adjust as they see fit.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here to say we are closing the rooms, so people are going to start coming back en masse in a couple of minutes. Dr. Luana, I'm sorry, were you about to say something?
Luana?
Sorry about that.
No worries.
It's okay. It's all right. Let me see if people are back. There's still a few groups.
Patrick, I'm seeing the countdown at 15 seconds.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
People start popping back over.
Sorry about making noise when I came back. I forgot to mute and I'm out
No
running
worries.
errands.
Hi, Luana.
Hi.
Leaving breakout room. Okay.
We're back.
Okay, you should all be back or on your way back. So just a reminder, if you haven't muted yourself, please do for the time being. That was more complicated than I realized.
Listen, I'm still out of it, so I don't think.
John, you're back.
I can come back and join again. Would that work?
John, you're in the main room now. I'm not sure what's happening there, but we'll keep an eye on the waiting room to make sure people who are trying to get back in can. So what we'd like to do is have the groups very briefly just explain how that worked, aside from the very messy beginning. I see that there are a lot of notes on the shared document, which is great. You should also feel free to email us the notes that you took, because obviously we won't have time for people to represent the full discussion. I'm going to put the email address again in the chat box so that you'll know where to email them. But let's just go through the groups one by one. So starting with the first group, which was the advisory committee for commissioners. Could the spokesperson for that group give us a brief summary of how your discussion went?
Who's the spokesperson for one?
Want to go? It was just the two of us.
If both of you want to speak, that's fine.
I'm sorry. I just thought the teacher, you were taking notes.
Well, I sure did. Do you want me to do a quick summary, Darwin?
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
Thank you. On behalf of the committee, we had some thoughts. Obviously, for the commissioners, that it would be an advisory representative role, where there would be an opportunity for the different organizations to have a standing appointment. And there's 3 organizations that I don't want it to sound that it would be the only ones considered, but because of the work that's rooted in the community in advocacy, there'd be potentially additional ones. But for now, I would say, and Darwin, please feel free to add in as you may, Racial Justice Coalition, Pillars of the Community, La Raza Lawyers as potentials for them to have a standing representation, where the scope of duties would include the review of the applications, screening, and potential recommendations. And a piece of this work would mean that they would be odd terms. So there's a turnover, but there's also stability of historical knowledge within the group, where that would be some considerations to bring forward. And then just to make sure that there's a specific intentional focus for diversity, not just of the city districts, but like race, gender, and inclusiveness. That there'd be an intentional effort in and how the team is compromised. Darwin, I defer to you.
And those 3 groups was in addition to the 3 groups that were already listed: the San Diegans for Justice, Gilliam Law Association, and also Mid-City Can. But the general gist of it, we understood for one, is having a process for applicants to apply and having community input in who goes into the new commission, and as a way, as like a first step to help screen and hopefully also do recruitment outreach so that there's representation from community groups and people that are active in their community and working on criminal justice issues.
That gives us a lot to work with. And one of the things that really stood out for me in what you said, Letitia, is that this advisory committee would be charged with ensuring different kinds of diversity on the commission itself. So the commission wouldn't just be accountable to itself when it comes to questions of diversity, but this advisory committee made up of representatives from so far 6 groups centrally involved in this would also be charged with appraising the diversity of representation on the committee. I love that idea. So I've got notes on that. Letitia and Darwin, if you either or both of you want to email that email address some as well, some more comments, that'd be great. Thank you so much. Let's move on to group 2, commission size and term limits.
Hi, Patrick. Hi, everyone. My name is Ariana. I'll be presenting for Group 2. So Group 2 is the conversation on commission size and term length. In our group, we had, just to name a few, Jack, Ann, Dahlia, Yvonne, and I know Don was also with us. So we did have a conversation and agreement to ensure that we have representatives from each city council district. So that's 1 through 9, and ensuring that we have additional representatives that are community members of those over policed communities. So many of the times those are identified as District 9, 4, and 8. For historically, we have had those districts over police. We had Jack, who is part of the Anti-Racism Coalition, who suggested a representative who is an expert in the medical field, psychiatric and mental health. This would be impactful in how we are seeing the criminalization of mental health right now. And I think there is an opportunity to really ensure that we are holistically taking an approach of how we take care of our community. We continue to have a conversation on the youth seats. So previously there was a suggestion of 2 youth seats, and this group would like to see 3. Being that a lot of young people, their first instance with police or police violence starts at a very young age. They are also community members and experts of their community. For term limits, we did have Don did uplift to have staggered membership terms so that the commission is able to transition commissioners throughout the years. And it was a suggested of 3 years to serve. Yvonne also shared to have a term limit to only have 1 consecutive term. Dahlia did point out that it is crucial for the commission to continue to do recruitment throughout the year, so that, and to have a standing committee that does vet community members. And then for those that were suggesting a specialized seat, it is important to have a committee that vet these experts, to ensure that these experts are intentional with serving over police communities, impacted communities, BIPOC, which is Black, Indigenous, people of color communities, so that they really have an opportunity to share that they are there to ensure equity and address homelessness and mental health, especially during our time. And I placed additional notes onto the Google Doc, but I believe that's all. I don't know if anyone else would like to share.
Ariana, that was fantastic. Thank you. I love the idea of, given the emphasis on the mental health of commissioners and the effects on people who have mental health concerns in the community of policing. I love the idea of having a representative from a medical field. And that makes me wonder about other communities that have been marginalized in sort of previous discussions and so on, including the unhoused community. It makes me wonder if we might request or suggest a similar kind of appointment for someone who does outreach and does work with unhoused folks. I also, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, Patrick, I wanted to add to that. One of the things that, thanks Ariana for that fantastic summary. Wanted to add that we talked about the expertise to make sure that it's an medical expertise or whatever expertise we use is someone from the community, not someone from outside the community. So we can have a doctor or, you know, mental health practitioner. There are plenty in the communities that are being impacted overwhelmingly. And so starting really looking at our own their own backyard versus from the outside.
Thank you so much for that correction. And I've added it in all stars because that is incredibly important.
May I say something?
Please.
The lady Ariana brought a very good point about youth being involved in the commission, because I remember we lobbied politicians on AB 901, which is reducing youth contact with probation and other law enforcement, because too often California youth are pushed into informal probation for things like poor school performance or poor attendance or misbehaving, which does not merit them to have contact with the police. So I believe very strongly, and I agree with the speaker, that youth should be part of the commission.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And that has been a resounding yes from the community in all three of these roundtables, that youth need representation on this commission.
Patrick, could I add to that? Also,
please, yeah.
That we said that there should be at least 3, so that when we have this rotation of every 3 years, that there will always be 3.
That's great. So it's tied to the term length so that you ensure there's always robust representation.
Exactly.
Great. Thank you so much. That was also very rich. And I'd love if you want to email more notes, even raw notes. That would be great. Okay, so,
This is Alexis Torrey. I don't know how to raise my hand.
So are you on a phone or are you?
I'm on a computer.
I believe I'm not able to view it because I'm a host. I believe if you click the more button, you'll see a raise hand function. Is that correct? But Alexis, if you have something to add, you could also just speak.
Yeah, could I please? I am a former CRB member for 5.5 years. I left in 2015. And I realized diversity is very, very important in this type of organization. I saw it when I was a member. Sometimes it was diverse in my 5 years, sometimes it wasn't. But I want to caution you and not to exclude other people. If you get so specific in your recruitment and you're basically dictating all these seats and representation, you are going to miss candidates like myself, like people who are not over-policed, not underrepresented, not that are housed, employed. If you make it so narrow, it sounds like you're going towards a commission that is not anti-police, but not unbiased. It sounds very agendized to me.
Okay, I've taken notes on your comments. I appreciate you making them.
If I may just, and I will be quick, Patrick, we actually had this conversation, and I did raise, from my perspective, this is how things have been done, right? We bring others who are not directly impacted into the discussion, into the decision making. And we too often don't heavily rely on those that are being impacted. So I actually suggest and recommend quite the opposite, not to exclude anyone, but these are individuals and communities that have been overly policed for, it's been too long, right? And so often, even the best practices out there, you know, I'm a racial equity consultant. One of the many things that we keep forgetting is to actually allow and provide the space for community to come up with their own resolutions. And we are the allies. Like, I live outside of the communities which are being impacted, but I am an ally. So you let me know how I can support you, but I'm going to let you make the decisions. And that's just what I wanted to add.
Thank you so much for that. And I'll just say for my part that I think if the work of oversight is to be true oversight, then the people participating in it need to be people with firsthand knowledge and experience of what's going on. And I think that knowledge is missed. I think it's left out personally when we don't include the voices of youth, of a whole range of people in the districts that have already been named whose knowledge hasn't been used in the service of accountability in the way that it could. Okay, I'd like to move on to group 3, if it's okay, to make sure we can get through all 9 groups. But that was so helpful, that Ariana, your notes and the follow-up comments. So group 3, which is the determining what to investigate group, can we have someone tell us about your discussion briefly, please?
Okay, I'm Larry Stoll, and I'll be reporting back on group 3, and Duke Taylor is going to be providing the notes on that as we get back. One of the important features of determining what to investigate was that we thought the commission should review all complaints and all internal affairs investigations. So right up front, they should see everything that comes through. Then there's the cases that are required, which are death-related shootings or deaths in custodies. Those have to be done. There's also service and courtesy calls, and then there's some several categories that I think are currently being used by the CRB that issues would be grouped into. But we felt that there should be solid analytics on the officers, even if you don't know the names of the officers, they could be coded in some way so that you would have a track record of all the officers and the complaints, numbers and types of complaints that each officer has encountered that would allow you to figure out if there's any bad apples in there or to reward officers that are behaving well. And also the types of complaints that are coming out of different regions or different districts so that you'd know what types of complaints are showing up in certain areas and how you might change policing in those areas to reduce those complaints. Figure out what's going on, how the police are interacting with those areas. But the general categories are the use of force and how those are handled, issues on dishonesty, some issues related to public interest. If there's something that happened that the public is particularly interested in, then those would probably get some priority. Patterns of misconduct, that would go track back to the officer/environment interactions. Any patterns of inappropriate professional activity or policies and practices that might track back to maybe officers going to the Trump rally or that type of thing, or some sort of even social media stuff that might be inappropriate. And then physical assault, things related to sexual abuse or misconduct, and any other general complaints that show up in the analytics, those analytics should be publicly available. So you say, these are all the types of complaints that we're receiving. Here's all the ones that are being investigated. This is the types of outcomes we're getting. And then you'd have the public would gain confidence in resolution of the types of complaints they're receiving so that things would move forward, and you would either change policies, getting rid of the cardioid restraints, changing maybe, that was changing the force matrix. So there's things that could be elucidated pretty strongly if you could keep track of the data and report back to the public.
Can I just add, Larry, we also did specifically address sexual misconduct and domestic violence as related to police officers, either, as the
that was in
perpetrator
the,
or potentially the,
physical assault,
the victim.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I think I was hearing you say, or the overarching message that I'm getting, is that the community needs to be involved in making these decisions. And one way to do that is for the new commission to provide analytical data across cases that paint a bigger picture of what's going on. And then, I'm sorry, my cat has joined me. And then in addition, that, as you put it, matters of intense public interest should be prioritized in making those decisions. And those include sexual misconduct, intimate partner violence, and I would assume they also include discrimination and other kinds of complaints. But the overarching message I'm getting from you is that the CPP should focus on creating and getting data out, analytical data, that paints a bigger picture so that the community can then provide input on where the priorities should be.
Priorities, procedures, officers, regions, the communities. If a community's having a problem, it'll show up in the complaints. So
that's okay. That's interesting. So if a neighborhood, if we drill down to a neighborhood, if a particular neighborhood is showing a certain pattern, then those complaints from that neighborhood might also be prioritized in the interest of looking at larger trends and so on. You know, that's a very specific suggestion that we haven't talked about in previous roundtables. I think it's one of these suggestions that's really landing with me. Andrea, did you have a comment about that? I saw you nodding.
No, I think it's an excellent suggestion. It's that larger understanding that the commission is really designed to get at.
Yeah.
Right? I probably agree.
Thank you so much. I'm going to keep moving because we want to end on time. So let's move on to transparency and accountability. If we could have a brief recap of your discussion.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say I took notes, but if you want to go ahead, Kylie, it's fine.
I was literally about to suggest that you should do it because you took.
Okay. And chime in if I got this wrong, but from the notes I just kind of condensed. I got it that there was kind of 4 to 5 key points that the ordinance, as it is written, should be written to accommodate the current laws, but also future laws, so that it's not kind of hamstringing itself and getting stuck. So that as much information can be made available as possible to people, to the public. And 2, that there's a need to collect data and track that data associated with individual officers, and hopefully make that public too. That there should be reporting back to the commission from the police as to the outcome of the commission's recommendations. So the commission is not toothless. If necessary, the commission can go beyond the complaint to investigate officers and officers around the complaint. The commission, and this is, I guess, 5, the commission can make public the data of complaints and when the commission's recommendations are followed and when they are ignored.
Okay, great. I'm sure you have so much more than that too. So I would love to get from both Kylie and Patrine, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes.
If you're willing to share your notes with that email address, I'll be happy to put it in the chat as well. But the overwhelming message here, which I think is one that the community's been asking for a long time, is to track data across time on individual officers, and then to make that data public within the limits of state law, which can be very restrictive. So the commission should be charged with finding ways within, as you put it, current and future laws to make that data known by the community. Is that a fair, even briefer summation of what I'm sure was a very rich conversation? Okay.
Well, even if the individual officer's name is not identified, he needs to be moved or something needs to change. But you shouldn't the trend should not continue that an officer keeps making the same type of a complaint.
So one thing that came up in our discussion was if the recommendations aren't followed by the police department, that needs to be something that needs to be transparent as well, and put out there as well. So if we keep sending to the chief, this is an issue here, this is an issue here, they keep ignoring us, then why? That needs to come up.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think real quick, just to add to that or maybe clarify it a little bit, we spent quite a bit of time on that piece. And I think what we got to was a mandate for sort of the PD or the mayor's office or the city attorney, whomever charges or disciplinary recommendations are referred to, that there's a response of how that case outcome was determined. And then so that can be used to go back and see if the commission's recommendations, are being followed, are being undercut, or being ignored completely. And that information can also be made available to the public. So not just the, conclusion of an investigation, but, actually the conclusion of the whole case.
A follow-up, that information and data be made public and returned to the community. Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry for the last 5 groups. We're going to be coming back to these issues in Roundtable 4, but I am going to ask the last 5 groups to give a very brief summation, and then we'll and then send us your comments, and we'll include them in our report of tonight, because I do want to respect people's time. So next is complaint process. Can you give us just a couple sentences about how that discussion went? I'm so sorry.
Sure, no problem. This is Wendy Galernter, and we also had Matt Woods and Kevin Conroy and Henry Jourdain in our group. Making the complaint process accessible involves multiple ways to file complaints online, printed forms, phone calls, an app. The possibility of an app that allows people to track the status of their complaint, the need for all communications on the complaint process to be available in a variety of languages, and with the possibility of translators, and public education on the complaint process. Anyone interacting with the police should receive a printed piece of information that educates them that there is a complaint process and how to make a complaint if necessary, the possibility of even a rating system for people who interact with the police and willing to rate the officer on their performance.
Thank you.
Address issues of retribution by law enforcement and penalties for police if there is evidence of retribution. The whole issue of undocumented people making complaints without fear of retribution. Not sure how that can happen. A receipt so people know the complaint has been received and is being reviewed. Finally, if a complaint is filed with the SDPD, it should automatically be forwarded to the commission. Okay, automatic forwarding, got it. And I'm sorry we don't have time for more discussion. Again, we're going to create a report, send it to all of you whose email addresses we have, so we will have time for follow-up, but that's really helpful. Did meeting accessibility have a discussion, or did that room not get filled?
We had a discussion.
Oh, great. Okay, so do you have a very brief summary for us?
Yeah, Stephanie has the...
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Basically, we just talked about the accessibility to the meetings. We were actually focused on, I wasn't sure, so we focused on making sure commissioners had access, as in flexible hours. But if we broaden it to the community, then of course we're talking about language, about childcare, about rotating the locations, about access in public spaces, safety, disabled ability to access it, transportation, public and otherwise. And the most recent idea of doing this in neighborhoods where the complaints are happening most would be one of the rotations. So it's a mix of a variety of things, and I will send those in the notes.
Thank you so much. Those are a lot of good ideas. Let's move on to group 7. So supporting commissioners, was there a discussion there?
Yes, this is Caroline Collins. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I met with Samantha Giannilis and Greg DeNoris. We had a complete group consensus that these resources were not just significant, but it would help us to build out a commission that's diverse along all kinds of fronts: housing status, language, race, ethnicity, gender, ability, caretaking responsibilities, employment status, etc. We thought a great starting place would be that commissioners should have access to the resources that are also provided to city employees. So things like workers' comp, mental health, wellness resources. Specifically in terms of wellness resources, we thought that the process to actually access those resources should begin with independent providers, as opposed to a wellness unit that's affiliated with the SDPD, which is how we believe it currently operates, and that those services should also be provided by independent providers who are steeped in culturally competent methods. Also, we thought at the very least, the resources that should be offered are things like transportation costs, meals, child elder care, having a remote caseload, technology support, lost wages, or also an actual stipend. We thought that we can refer to best practices from other nationwide commissions that have already effectively offered these kinds of resources, or refer to any other compensation packages within city models like the grand jury if they do something like this. And we also suggest upfront compensation or stipends or allowances as opposed to reimbursements, since we know that it often can take weeks or even months sometimes to receive reimbursements through bureaucratic channels. And then lastly, we really want to strongly advocate for clear and convincing language within the ordinance that this is an overall ethos shift, right? That we're actually recognizing the inherent privilege of when you do something like compensation for your labor as being unsavory or transactional, instead of just reframing this as it's about accessibility, it's about diversity. If you're able to just actually simply compensate people for their labor.
So an explicit statement of why these resources are being provided, so as to broaden, again, the diversity and accessibility of the commission itself. That's also a new idea. Thank you so much, Caroline. And if you could send me notes, that would be great. We know each other. We email a lot, so you know how to do that. Okay. Now, these are going to be big. I know there's a lot, but again, we're going to move pretty quickly through this last moment, or these last few moments. So training commissioners, is there a spokesperson for that important group?
Yeah, I got it. Okay, so our list, the training should have an initial orientation with the expectation of ongoing training. We were unable to agree on how long the training should be because we want to balance good training with not making the training too onerous to keep people from participating. Legal education, I understand the commission is going to have a lawyer, so the commissioner should understand the laws relevant to the investigation of complaints and to a lesser extent the boundaries of the commission itself. Training in cultural competency that includes local history of police community relations presented by subject matter experts, including diverse perspectives. Anti-bias training to ensure commission objectivity. Statistics training, just a basic understanding of how to collect data that is statistically valid, for example, and possibly using the resources from Nicole. And this is just tying into what others have said in terms of investigating and reporting. The commission should just have a basic idea of how to manage data in a relevant fashion. Training to be transparent and share that training, the training itself to be transparent and sharing that training with community partners. The idea being that there will be an open channel of communication between commissioners and communities so that the commission will better understand the needs of the communities.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mona. That last comment. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to go through fast.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Just a few more on the list. Knowledge of restorative practices, training and conducting effective meetings, having a budget for training, and then, you know, just tying in, we kind of had two issues that came up that we weren't sure were on our list, but that the police should be trained in restorative practices, but the commission should understand the training that they're getting. And in terms of having that training in cultural competency, Dr. Richmond gave an excellent example of the guards at Buckingham Palace, I believe it is, where they're trained not to speak to anyone. So if you go there, they don't talk to you. But if you don't know that that's their training and that's what they're supposed to do, you might think that they're really rude. So anyway, so the reason that's relevant is that, and this is kind of a parking lot issue, but the police should better advertise what citizens should do in potentially contentious situations. For example, if you get pulled over, what do they want you to do? Put your hands on the steering wheel, immediately get your license out. You know, what do they expect from citizens? And then what can citizens expect from the police in terms of, can they expect to be told immediately why they were pulled over? That's just an example, but just this idea of having mutual expectations for police-citizen interaction. That's
Okay.
it.
Thank you. And your comments also make me think that the commission could establish a committee made up of community members to help guide it in the ongoing trainings that it provides. If there's sort of like we have this advisory committee, to have an advisory committee focused on commissioner education made up of committee members.
Great idea.
Okay, so moving on to group 9, and I'm sorry, group 9, as briefly as you can, represent your rich discussion on data and reporting, with the understanding that we'll give it much more space in the team.
Yes, we know that there's a lot more conversation that needs to happen. We spent actually a lot of time trying to figure out how we're going to collect the data to create the reports that the commission is going to do, and how do we trust that data. Really looking to work with community members, community leadership, community organizations to collect that data. The data is so important. The more points that we can get can give us a really good idea of how policing looks at in the different communities. So even though we know there's been pushback against collecting lots of data just because of the time constraints on what police have to do, that data portrait is so important. And also works, we think, much better to public safety efforts than actual individual police solving particular investigations. So lots more conversation also
sure,
about the kind of reporting that we want to see coming from the commission. And that reporting we think will change from time to time. There's a lot more we talked about. So I'm glad we're going to have more opportunities to expand that.
And
yes.
also, if I may add to
yes,
what
please.
Ann lifted up, the conversation around the amount of data to collect, we definitely wanted to prioritize checking in with community groups who are really helping, community groups and community organizers who are helping families whose loved ones have been killed by police, and they are seeking justice in that other way. And the data that would have been helpful for them to have in getting justice for their families and themselves. So we definitely had a long conversation about centering and trusting survivors of police violence, of surviving family members, of people who've been murdered by police, as well as the community organizers and community organizations that support those folks.
Christina, thank you. It's very illuminating. It's a reminder that this is not about producing data for data's sake. It's about producing data for specific purposes and on behalf of specific communities. That's crucial, and that gets lost in so many discussions about reporting. We're right at the end of our time. It took me 3 or 4 weeks to get the compiled comments from the last roundtable But with the help of all of your notes, I promise you I will have a report ready within 2 weeks about this meeting. I'll post it on the website, patrick.ucsd.edu, and then click Tracking Measure B. But I'm also once again putting the email address in the chat box. If you have not been receiving the emails that I send out, please send us an email to that address and I'll add you to our big list. I'm seeing a couple questions here. So just so folks know, the document that I shared is going to continue to be available publicly. We're not going to take that down. And I see a question about are we reading the chat box? So Poppy is reading the chat box.
Yes.
I go back and read the whole thing once this is over. But in this meeting, I'm focused on moderating the discussion. Sorry, Poppy, go ahead.
Just to say that I've pulled all of the comments that have and suggestions that have come in through the chat and already started to embed them in the tracking document. So it's all happening.
And I will say that anybody whose comments appear with their name, before we make those public, we've been running the comments by the people who commented first. So just so you know, we'll run them by you. Andrea, would you like to say our goodbyes?
I would. I'm always surprised every time about how fantastic the suggestions are. This has been another great forum, great comments. I would ask that if you have not signed up for our mailing list, please go to sandiegonsforjustice.com and sign up so you can get our updates on this as well. And please remember that our next forum is January 30th from 2 to 4 p.m. Patrick did mention that he's willing to have as many forums as is necessary. At this point, this next one is the last one that we have scheduled. So I'm not sure if we will have additional ones, but Patrick may certainly, of course, as he said, if there's a need to, he's definitely willing to schedule another one. So I would like to thank everybody for coming and let Patrick and Poppy say the last words.
I want to allow folks to get on with their evening, but I do want to say that a What's Next for Police Oversight session is being hosted by Women's March San Diego on January 23rd. So folks who are interested in just sort of knowing what the status is of this process and seeing a little bit more the nitty-gritty of what's ahead, are invited to join, and there'll be more information about that out on your social media and other channels very soon. And I just want to thank you, Andrea, so much for having us, and Patrick for all your good work.
Thank you both. Thank you to everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and we hope to see you in a couple of weeks at the next one. Be safe, have each other's backs. And I hope you're all surrounded by people who have your backs too.